Now we are joined by Comrade Yinka Falari, National Vice President, CDHR. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us at this time.
I say good evening to all Nigerians out there.
All right, while it is established that protest is not a crime in Nigeria, why do you think that it is being treated as such?
Well, it is quite unfortunate that we find ourselves where we are here, and it actually reveal how how deficient we are in terms of respecting the rights of the people, especially right to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, amongst others. So I feel criminalizing protests in Nigeria is one route we are not is not an unusual route. It is not, but it's quite unfortunate that the present administration, who's supposed to be seen to be above board, is now saying also towing the part of the military, then and criminalizing the rights of the people. So I feel it is a very pathetic one for us. Under an acclaimed democracy we are running. So calling peaceful protest a treasonable felony, I think it is very barbaric, and we need to remind those who are behind this to remember that Nigeria is a party to so many international treaties on human rights. You can't be beating a child and expect the child not to cry. When should it become an offense to come out and express your grievances, your displeasure over policies that are not working for us in the country? So I really feel for my country. I feel so sad, and as an organization we have condemned it, but it is not an unusual route. It will only be an unusual one when the so-called players, the game masters at the end of affairs, who would claim to be acclaimed Democrats, are now also towing the part of what they have condemned in the past. Don't let us forget that quite number of time, the so-called people in government also have led series of protests against hardship, against bad governance and the likes. So the reality is there, shining upon all of us to see whether we have bad governance in place or not, whether there's hardship in the country or not. So if all of these are true, then I really feel very sad for my country that you have chosen to criminalize peaceful protesters. Those who committed actions are different from those who have conducted themselves peacefully and expressing themselves in a very decent manner against what is unfair in the country. You shouldn't be beating us and tell us to keep quiet. It will not work. Not even under the military regime. They do keep quiet. Not under the military regime was our mouth sealed. So it will not work at this time. Rather we advise everyone who has one way or the other been contributing to this clampdown on right agitators to retrace their step. They should understand we are not under military regime. We are not under military rule. We are running a democracy, and as such, the freedom of the people should be protected and must be protected. And when we negotiate all of this, we will be making mockery of ourselves in the Committee of Nations. And Nigeria is one of those countries we term ourselves as giant of Africa. We should be giants in all. We should know that the right of the people cannot be traded.
Okay, all right then. So what would you advise? What advice would you give towards ensuring Nigerians have their rights respected, despite the fact they are protesting against bad governance in Nigeria?
Well, my advice is for those who are concerned, especially the authorities, to firstly accord every citizen their rights. And one of those rights that must be respected is that freedom of expression. You must accord, and don't go after the messengers. Look into the messages. If the government have decided to look into the messages and leaving the messengers out of it, we won't be where we are today. And in as much as I will not encourage any form of destruction of Commonwealth, any form of arson, I won't encourage that. But those who have been charged to court, especially the 10 who were granted bail today, I can tell you emphatically, these are people who have only come out to lead to voice for the voiceless and say, come, we are tired of this hardship. Find solution to our problems. And they're saying all of this should not be criminalized. However, we will leave the court to do justice to that. They have been granted bail, but they will remain Nigerians and they have right and responsibility to their own country. So I would say every protester should please let us always conduct ourselves peacefully, and let the government, let authorities know that peaceful protest anywhere in the world is not a criminal offense. It's not a treasonable offense. It is not an offense in the overall of it. It is when it becomes destructive, and the security agencies have the right to identify those who made the protest to go destructive, and they have the right to charge those ones, not those who have led, who are voicing for the voiceless in our society. It is more or less that you want to seal up the voice. It is a form of intimidation. It is an harassment, and it is very, very condemnable. We cannot take it under our so-called democracy. Democracy is supposed to be for all of us and not just for few. And if we are going against the obnoxious policies of government, it is not because we hate the government. It is because we want the government to perform very, very well.
I'm so sorry to cut short the flow of your thoughts, but sadly we do not have that luxury of time. We thank you so much for joining us on our news at this time.
You're welcome.
And that's Comrade Yinka Folari, National Vice President, CDHR. And now we are joined by Declan A. Kaire. He is an activist and also one of the organizers of the End Bad Governance protest. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us on the news. Okay, if you're with us, could we have your reactions on the news that we have now, that is the Federal High Court in Abuja giving the 10 protesters that were arrested 10 million naira bail? What's your reaction on that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is quite unfortunate that Nigerians are in this position today. But it is very, very, very interesting that it's happening at a time where we have people who were master protesters. The current president of this country today was once a master planner of protests in this nation. And in the history of the country called Nigeria, this is the first time we're criminalizing protests, making it a treasonable felony offense, one of the highest crime one could commit. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria where such a crime could be trivialized. And it's quite unfortunate that we're in a stage now where these agents of the government, the police, who ought to be the friend of the masses, the friend of the people, is being used to charge protesters to court on treasonable felony. And so, want to say, no matter what intimidation is, no matter the suppression, no matter the repression, Nigerians will always speak out. Today, they were granted bail. I knew that they would be granted bail, and I knew that case would be thrown out. And I'm also aware that the government must compensate those comrades for unduly infringing on their right of expression. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We thank you so much for being part of our news at this time. We sincerely hope we also will able to share your views with us some other times too. Many thanks for being part of our news.
You're welcome.
All right, and that was Declan A. Kaire, an activist and also one of the organizers of the End Bad Governance protest in Nigeria.